Here. Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Wiebe from Sportsnet. Together, we are Kenny and Renny, and this is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after an absolute heater of a game by the Winnipeg Jets. If that was a game of darts, that would have been bullseye after bullseye after bullseye after bullseye. I know that the Vegas Golden Knights kind of came in here a little bit of a broken team, definitely a struggling team, and I know that one of the big reasons that's happening is because of their goaltending. Former Winnipeg Jet Laurent Brossoit, their backup goaltender, handling the lion's share of their duties in the net, and the Winnipeg Jets looked like a team that knew exactly where to go on Laurent Brossoit time and time and time again, other than Kyle Connor's goal, which was off the post and in, and really a great shot. And just the absolute trickery involved in it. It's a Pierre-Luc Dubois takes a shot, gets blocked, takes another shot, blocked off another defenseman, lands on Kyle Connor's stick. Kyle Connor's got the puck. There's a defenseman right standing in front of him. And what does he do? He makes it look like he's going to pass the puck across back towards Pierre-Luc Dubois, and then just whips it far side right along the ice off the post. And gorgeous goal. Other than that, Blake Wheeler's goal was just gorgeous, absolutely sublime. Goes in, gets the defender's skates pointed towards the net, pulls the puck back on him from his left shoulder to his right shoulder, releases the puck using him as a screen right in the top corner. Nick Ehlers' shot could not have been any more perfect than it was. I know that wasn't on Laurent Brossoit, but Logan Stanley sticking it right in the tiniest of openings for him to get that goal. Laurent Brossoit, I felt bad for him on a night like this because I don't necessarily think he played that bad. I think the Jets just played that good. That said, the Vegas Golden Knights, a team that could really use a save down the stretch here now that they've lost 5 straight games, they weren't getting that on this night. You can see why that team is where they are. But forget all that. Winnipeg Jets on an absolute heater right now. They've won 4 of their last 5 games. You know all about the metrics that Ken and I have been talking about for some time now. Basically have to be winning 3 out of every 4 games. Well, they're on that stretch the last little while. They have points in 7 of their last 9. Never mind the fact that we had said the Jets would essentially need to shoot the lights out and have teams around them fall apart. Well, both of those things are happening right now. 5 straight losses for the Anaheim Ducks, who are now in the rearview mirror. 3 straight losses for the Dallas Stars, and the loss of Miro Heiskanen on the back end. Their best defenseman is starting to loom very uncomfortably for them at this stage. But I mean, it's not about that. They lost 4-0 tonight against the Toronto Maple Leafs. You're not winning any games scoring 0 goals. And the Vegas Golden Knights, as I did, 5 straight losses. I believe 4 of those are against teams currently below the playoff line. So they are in absolute free fall. None of it's going to matter if they can't get past the Dallas Stars. And while they've closed the gap on the Dallas Stars to just 1 game, Dallas does have 3 games in hand. Dallas is a streaky team. They go on a streak of losing. They go on a streak of winning. So, hey, if they turn around and win those 3 games, all of a sudden it's a 7-point deficit again, and it's not looking so great once again for the Winnipeg Jets. But I can tell you, I've got a bold statement to say about the trade deadline. We'll get to that in a little bit, but first we got to bring in my main man, Ken Wiebe, who is in the building. Forget about busy, loud airports. Forget about T-birds in the background. He's in the building right now, so if you want to hear that helicopter land at center ice, his mic is going to pick that up for you at home. Let's bring in my main man who's got the best music in the business. Here's Kenny, everybody. Ken, I'll tell you something. I don't know why, but I've got the music absolutely cranked in my ears, and it's like a totally new experience hearing that song. I absolutely love it. Great tunes. Enter Kenny is about as good as it gets. Chat room is already on fire here, Kenny. I haven't been able to dive into it. T. Will suggesting I'm finally mixing in a little class. Good to see. I have no idea what that means, but if you're mixing me up with a classy person, T. Will, you've got the wrong show. You're going to have to go elsewhere because you'll be waiting a long time if you're waiting for class from me. But Ken, let's get into it. Absolutely heater of a game for the Winnipeg Jets. What did you see out there?
Well, certainly an interesting start. The Vegas Golden Knights with the first 6 shots on goal of the game, and the Jets passing on some good opportunities. And I didn't necessarily see a lot of zone time. I know that Blake Wheeler did not agree with my assessment that the game needed to be turned around, but that's okay. That's his prerogative. I thought the Jets were very sluggish coming out of the gate, which is natural when the team comes back from a road trip. But guess what? I mean, the Jets can't afford to have sluggish starts, but they got the game turned around quickly. I know some folks don't like it, but I think it was pretty clear the fight from Logan Stanley helped get the Jets going on a night that it was a little bit sleepy, and then a big hit by Adam Lowry on Nick Hague behind the net kind of got this team going, and then they started to get opportunistic, and their weaponry started working for them. I think it was an impressive piling up of the goals. And I mean, this is something the Jets didn't do a ton of early on in the season, right? They didn't kind of put the pedal down when they had their opponent on their heels. So to me, I think it was an impressive game on a lot of ways. I mean, I thought their puck management, Sean, was a heck of a lot better. That's something that they've really struggled with this last little stretch. I mean, there were a couple times where, I mean, again, a couple breakdowns in the game itself, but I thought for the most part, the Jets played a very sound game against, yes, a team that was depleted for sure, but I think that the Jets absolutely had to win that game. And you know what we talked about, Sean, going in, this was very similar to those games with the Dallas Stars, and the Jets did not win those games against the Dallas Stars. In fact, there was the worst case scenario for them basically in those being 3-point games. I guess worst case scenario would be for them to get 0 points, but the Jets played well. Both their top 2 lines were going again on the same night. There were some impressive goals scored. Adam Lowry scores another important shorthanded goal. Josh Morrissey scores on the power play. I think Connor Hellebuyck was mostly steady in the game itself, and overall the Jets have got to be pretty happy. And again, they have to wait now till Friday till they play again, and we'll kind of see where things are at. But for the time being, Sean, one thing we probably both weren't sure we were going to say again this year, to be quite frank, the Jets are within 2 points of a playoff spot. And that was not looking like a team that was headed in that direction. You and I talked about it the other night. The St. Louis Blues seemed to bring out the best in the Winnipeg Jets. This wasn't necessarily their best today, but I thought they followed up very nicely on that effort on Sunday, and they did exactly what they had to do if they want to stay in this race. I mean, it's one thing to go win one, lose one, but the Jets are now 6-2-1. So is it possible they don't make it? Of course, it's still an uphill battle. The math's not great. They have to pass the Dallas Stars, but right now they've given themselves a chance, like what we talked about, Sean. The Jets can't split this set with Vegas. They need to win both, and then they got to take care of some stuff in the middle. But right now, they've put themselves in position to continue to be in the race, and that will lead to some interesting decisions coming up in the next week.
I'll tell you this, Ken. I know you're saying that the Jets weren't at their best. I'll tell you what I think was at their absolute best. The part of their game that was at the absolute tippy top of their best is their goal scoring. I mean, if you take a look tonight, this could have been a very different game. Vegas, there were times, and I tweeted about it, they pushed. And during that push, I thought the Jets did a really, really good job of staying in shooting lanes, kind of keeping them to the outside. I know that the Vegas created some chances. For the most part, Connor Hellebuyck was there when those chances broke through. But the Winnipeg Jets took advantage, I think, of every single decent opportunity that they had on this evening. Like I was saying, it was like bullseye after bullseye after bullseye after bullseye. And to be honest, this is what makes the Winnipeg Jets the most dangerous of anything. We take a look at their lineup. We talk about the skill that they have. the offensive ability that they have. I'm not sure what the numbers were. I think the Jets were sitting not that long ago about 20th, 21st, 22nd in offense in the NHL. Well, they've carved their way up to like 15th in goals overall. I think 14th in goals per game. That's a big jump that we're seeing from them. All of a sudden they're scoring. Remember, they had 7 against Tampa Bay Lightning the other night. 2 of those are empty net goals. Here tonight, 7 true goals. And they celebrated each of them like they were their first of the game. It was absolutely, it was phenomenal. It was good stuff. But that is the part, and I'll bring this up again because I've brought it up a couple times on this watching a Colorado Avalanche broadcast, and their broadcaster said in that even when the Jets were at the lowest of the low, the broadcasters there had said their wild card was the Winnipeg Jets. Well, what you saw from them tonight is what makes them that wild card, because it doesn't take a lot for this Jets team to run things up on you. We've talked about this in the past. Tonight was a perfect example of that. Outshot quite a bit. I think if you take a look at, the underlying numbers of the game, that there wasn't necessarily a huge difference in the two teams, other than one team's ability to put the puck in the back of the net and the other team not able to do so by nearly as much frequency. So having that in their back pocket going forward, I asked Dave Lowry about it. Didn't really, I mean, it's one of the things I think you miss about Paul Maurice is Paul Maurice would always seem to have a real interesting answer when it came to stuff like this. Dave Lowry's probably right. He says it's just a matter of doing the right things over and over and over and over again, and that's what you get. But if you think back to some of the losses that this team had, Ken, where, people talked about the Jets getting goalied. Well, you can say it's getting goalied, but another way of looking at it is your star players who are very, very good at scoring aren't finding a way to score. You could say it's the goalie, but tonight was a night where, again, I'll say it, I don't think Laurent Brossoit had the best night, but at the same time, boy, he wasn't that far off. He was about that far off, and that was all it took for the Winnipeg Jets to put the puck in the net tonight. Them having that scoring capability the way they have it right now, they're feeling it. It's coming off their stick. It's not just Kyle Connor, who we'll get into, but it is everyone on that team. They didn't need the inside scoring tonight. They're dangerous scoring from the outside. They showed that again tonight. They have that capability. It makes them a very, very dangerous team as long as they don't get sucked into that style at all times and continue trying to score only from the outside, push to the net, and make sure that teams have to defend you inside the crease as well as outside the crease. You're going to be a very dangerous team.
Yeah, and that's probably why the Jets have been so perplexing, Sean, isn't it? I mean, I think that's 27 games. My math may be slightly off here, but I think I have the Jets down as 27 games with 2 goals or fewer. And now I think it's 15 of 4 or higher. And the Jets' record in those games where they've scored, I think, it might even be 5 or higher, they're 14-0-1 in those games. So, I mean, it's natural, but it's very odd for a team to go ice cold for nearly half the season, but still have the offensive capability to put up, 4, 5, 6, 7 a night. And, I think they've had 8 twice. So, it's been a very strange year for the Jets in terms of that, Sean. And today, it wasn't all off the rush. There was a combination, right? You have some shots from the slot. You have, the Wheeler goal is fantastic, but we've talked about flybys and fishing trips on a lot of games this year. What was Pietrangelo doing on that goal?
Yeah.
It was a horrendous job of fishing with one hand. Nice job by Wheeler to elude him. But man, what a move he made to the middle, cutting to the middle on Nick Hague and then beating his guy up top. And you touched on it off the top. It's all the sales job by Kyle Connor. Great shot, but everyone in the building, including Laurent Brossoit, thought Kyle Connor was going to pass before he let that shot go. And then, we have to talk about the other part. Nikolai Ehlers' great goal. But what a terrible sequence for the men in stripes. An obvious boarding call missed at one end by William Carrier banging Dylan DeMello into the boards. And then Pierre-Luc Dubois clearly cross-checked Dylan Coghlan, not just the first time, but then he hammered him down the second time. And that's why Coghlan couldn't get up in the face of Ehlers. That's why he had all day to walk in and take the shot. So, Jets were opportunistic, but they also did a nice job of playing a little bit more of a contained game. Honestly, outside of Jack Eichel, outside of maybe the shorthanded chance, where what an awesome job by Nate Schmidt, Sean, going to the buffet here. Nate Schmidt's ability to get the stick underneath Karlsson and then get it in on the hands, but not take a penalty on that shorthanded play where he went to the backhand. That was impressive. And then on Adam Lowry's shorty, what a job by Schmidt to win the battle on the boards in order to get that puck out and give it the area pass that Lowry skated onto. And I'm going to tell you right now, Sean, not a lot of guys in the league are winning a foot race with Shea Theodore on that play. And what a job by Lowry to pull away. And then beauty move. I mean, we've seen him go to the backhand on, countless times this year. What a job by Lowry to mix in the backhand forehand stuff for his 9th goal of the year. And hey, it's not that long ago we were talking about Adam Lowry. I mean, we're going to get Jeff in here right away. I mean, it wasn't that long ago we were talking to Adam Lowry on the podium about having 3 goals this year and needing secondary scoring. Well, guess what? Adam Lowry's now well on his way to another double-digit goal season. And let's be honest, his ability to get that third line going has helped the Jets at a time where they needed secondary scoring.
I guess it's time. Let's bring in Jeff Hamilton. We wanted to bring him in here tonight. He's been watching the game from home, but absolutely tearing it up. Now, I'm going to surprise Jeff.
Absolutely tearing it up. Yeah,
I can't.
But just tearing it up at home.
I can't. I can't deliver on the promise, but I can tell you we have now secured entry
big news
for Jeff Hamilton. It is not ready for tonight's show.
No way.
Every time Jeff Hamilton comes on the show, we have another Tristan Rivers classic ready to drop.
No, you don't.
Here, and it's
wow.
It's called Hammer Time. I'll give you.
You made it, Hammy. You know you've made it.
But
you guys are gonna get me emotional.
We got to put the video together. We actually wanted to get Colin out and actually do a video, like some promotional shots of you, Jeff. So if you got like a 70s style.
First. Hey.
There we go. Good stuff. Anyways, Jeff, let us know what you thought of the game tonight before we get into the deeper stuff.
Well, holy smokes, Kenny's fired up. We barely even got into it. Kenny's one of those who's going to hammer on him when things are going well. I love it. Not much to add there. Love the Logan Stanley fight. I have a lot of progressive views in the world. Lots of, forward thick. I'm a left more lean, I guess, but I love fighting in hockey. I think that mattered. I think that mattered to the team. I think that woke them up a little bit. You know what? I said this before a couple shows. I wasn't going to shit on them when they beat Arizona and Montreal, because we've been saying you need to beat the teams that are below you in the standings. Obviously, you need to beat the teams that are ahead of you in the standings, Vegas being one. But the Jets acknowledged the fact that this was a watered-down Golden Knights team. And if you really look at it, I mean, they didn't register their first shot for more than 12 minutes into the game, and they were getting absolutely hemmed in the third period. And I don't know about you guys, but if he doesn't take that, if Marchessault gets called on the original slash and not the one that he clearly retaliated from, and then they answer back, we might be having a completely different post-game show here. And so I think that speaks to the fact that this is, and credit to the Jets, they acknowledged it afterwards. They, when, Sean, to one of your questions, almost kind of inspiring a little bit of momentum here, Adam Lowry was quick to shut it down. He was, and you could hear him. You kind of felt like he got a little embarrassed as he kept mentioning the names. He didn't even get to Robin Lehner in net.
Good point. Good point.
Like he kind of once he got past Mark Stone, Max Pacioretty, McNabb, he's O'Reilly Smith. Then he goes McNabb and he trails off on McNabb. We didn't even mention that they had, Laurent Brossoit is not a number one goalie. And guess what? Couldn't even tell you the guy who went in, because I kind of stopped watching it after a certain point because it was useless. Thompson.
Logan Thompson, former Brandon Wheat King, his feelings are hurt.
There
Jeff.
You go. I mean, you need to win these games. It's massive, but let's go. There's so many things we could talk about in this game. I feel like we can talk about Wheeler's comments at intermission. We can talk about the scrap. We can talk about finish.
Well, let's.
You want me to keep talking?
Okay.
No, quick one here. So, Julie Sue, I asked Dave Lowry, and the answer today on Perfetti, he's not even close to skating yet. So, folks that are hoping that Perfetti is coming in on the white horse to help out I don't think the cavalry is coming anytime soon. I guess we'll see what kind of further updates we get. But Perfetti's still on the shelf, not even skating, so I don't think we're going to be seeing him for a while yet. So we'll see what happens on that front. But I mean, it sounds like there is maybe some positive news with Andrew Kopp. We'll see a little bit more as we move along here. But I believe the belief is that it was not a concussion sustained by Kopp. Now, again, when it comes to head injuries, you never know what the next couple days can bring. But I think the belief is that it was not a concussion, which is great news for Kopp and also obviously great news for the Winnipeg Jets.
I just want to touch on this quickly. Albane Bale says Jets still need defensive structure. I'm entirely willing to accept the fact and agree with the fact that the Jets kind of went to sleep in the third and fell into maybe one of those styles we don't necessarily like about them, where they're okay with allowing goals as long as they get to go the other way and have goals and kind of keep the good feeling going. Because I've said this before, there's nothing this team likes more than scoring goals. I think it's almost like they'd rather lose a game 8-7 than win one 1-0. You know what I mean? But I'll go along with that. You'd rather lose a game?
Oh no, sorry, I said lose. Sorry. I thought it was. Sorry, no.
Anyway, to go back to this, I don't buy this about the defensive structure. I thought that the Jets had a really good defensive structure for the first two periods of that game. I thought they had a very dynamic Vegas team that was moving the puck a lot and do a really good job of shutting down those shooting lanes. I mean, here, I said this about there not being that much of a difference between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Winnipeg Jets on this night, other than the fact that the Jets put the puck in the back of the net. But the Jets put the puck in the back of the net because they created a number of opportunities where they had a clear shooting lane towards the net, and that's one thing that I don't think happened very often tonight outside of the third period for that Vegas Golden Knights team. So you got to give credit where it's due. I mean, defensively, and I think this is kind of what you were touching on, Jeff, about the fact that there's so many people missing out of that Vegas Golden Knights lineup. Their game isn't right, and even though I thought their effort was there on this night, they were generating shots and there was a lot that they were doing well in pushing the play, it's those little things that team isn't doing right now. And one of those things is the fact that they're allowing really good shooters to walk in and release the puck with all kinds of intention. And you're not going to get away with that against a team like the Winnipeg Jets, but good on the Jets for actually getting there. Robert Sutton wanted to ask, did I think Wheeler's comeback after Queston showed a captain still at large? I'll get into that. I'll take that last, guys, because I asked the question. But Hammy, it's one of the reasons we brought you into the show. You take us through what you thought of Wheeler's comments in the first intermission on the TSN broadcast, where he basically called out the crowd for giving them the Bronx cheer and said that pissed the team off and gave them a response. What did you take of his comments, and then lead us to where he ended when he responded to me asking him about those comments?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at my tweet, I made a pretty clear tweet. I said there's no debate. Look, there's no emotion involved in that tweet. There's no debate that Blake Wheeler has an impossible time publicly calling himself out. You know what I mean? Like, he'll call out everybody else. Like, he'll call the media out when he doesn't like questions. He'll call his teammates out. We've heard him what was it, a week or two ago, where he talked about this being a young team, that weird comment, pretty much throwing shade at the younger players. I'm not saying he was pointing guys out specifically, but an excuse there. And then the comment about the fans. And fans are, here's the thing, guys. We see Blake all the time. We see him on a regular basis. We know what he's like. We know what how he would react to it. We know his kind of mannerisms. And in that moment, he's just pissed off. He can't help himself. That's just the guy he is. He didn't appreciate it, and he likes to, he can't let it go. So he has to say something. And so that's what essentially happened. People who go, well, I think he was just noticing it, or what if it was Josh Morrissey who said that I got that? And I saw a couple of, well, what if it was Pierre-Luc Dubois? They wouldn't say it. You know what I mean? Or they would say it like, we deserve it. That comment, when you're talking about, you're not looking into the camera, first off. Secondly, the comment you're before you make that comment, which was unprovoked, no one asked about it, and then you make the comment after you talk about how well you thought you played in a game. It took you 12 minutes, a period took you 12 minutes to register your first shot. I'm just saying it was just kind of like unnecessary. And then after, here's the thing. There's no doubt in my mind, Scott Brown gave him the goods on the way to the room and said, hey, look, you know what I mean? Like, he wouldn't just naturally think about the Twitterverse. I think, and maybe Scott did, maybe didn't. He'd be doing his job if he did.
Well, I don't, just to say quickly, I don't think Blake Wheeler would have been at the podium if he didn't make those comments, right?
That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying.
There's a number of other players who had better games than he did.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. So he came out, I think he was, I don't think he had to be convinced. I don't think he was ever, but I think he was coached a little bit there. And then we got to see the Blake Wheeler that I think if there's any frustration from media, it's knowing that Blake can offer a good answer. Blake can deal with tension and still answer the questions. I thought the back and forth with you, Sean, was a perfect example of pressing a guy, him not getting too uppity and giving a good answer. I thought today might have been his best comments all season long. Didn't you feel that way? I mean,
I didn't. No,
you didn't see a level of accountability. I felt there was a level of accountability. Like the fact that he says that they're scratching and clawing for a playoff spot. The fact that he says he's not going to celebrate this victory because they haven't, quote unquote, done anything yet. Yes, they're 2 points out, but you could see the look in his eyes when you talked about the Vegas team. He didn't have to say it. He pretty much stared at you being like, this wasn't the Vegas Golden Knights team that we are going to play if we make it to the playoffs or down the stretch here. And then secondly, I think he also said, yeah, we might be 2 points away, but we're far from this. We know the uphill battle, and we just need to think about next game. I just thought it was vintage Blake with a little bit more of that articulation in his answers and not so much as, bitter as we saw in that first intermission.
Yeah. Here, you know what? Go on, Ken. Sorry.
No, you go ahead. I want to take the part about the trade deadline. I don't really need to add anything.
You're not going to dive in on this?
I don't have a strong feeling about it. Do I think it was necessary? No. Do I think it was even true? I mean, I don't think for 1 second the Jets didn't rally around the fact they knew that if they lost this game, their season's not over, but they're 6 back of Vegas. I mean, they had to win this game. So do I think that they got upset about a Bronx cheer? No. It's possible Blake was upset, but I don't think that's what turned the game around. Yeah, sure, they scored 2 goals after that, but I just don't
think it's possible that actually did rally them. I feel like it could have.
Jeff, I mean, if they need if that's what they're they weren't motivated already, having a chance to pull within 2
after
teams.
Games this season where we wondered where the motivation is. This natural motivation is non-existent with this club, or they'd be in a playoff position at this point in the season. They haven't had motivation. Perhaps I would just throw it out there that Blake was actually mad, and I'm not saying he was like, I'm going to get the fans back, but I think that might have been enough to, I don't know, rally them. Possible. This team this season.
I think my response to that is, and I do think that did something, but I mean, it was part of my question. There's been numerous times this season where the Jets have left the ice to boos from the fans. This isn't the first time we've heard the Jets fans in this building voice their displeasure with the Jets. So, I mean, I do think it had something to do with it. I think Ken is right. I think the Jets knew that. And let's be honest, we've seen this over this stretch of hockey where they've been playing well. They still have their times where they fall to sleep a little bit, but what they are able to do is shake themselves out of the doldrums. And when they do, they're extremely sharp. So, I mean, I don't necessarily think it's that. I think him saying that is, I'm not at all surprised. I'm not one bit surprised. You're right, Jeff. Like what Jeff said to the fans in that moment is the same thing that he says to the journalists at all times. And I've said this in the past. If I'm asking a question and 20% of the Jets audience thinks that's a relevant question and he shuts that down or refuses to address it, well, then those people feel like their concerns haven't been addressed. So that's, I mean, that didn't surprise me at all. I will say this, about his comments afterwards. I think phenomenal goal, but I think the comments that he made have been pretty, on point and standard this entire time. Blake's focus is on the next game, and I don't think that's BS. He is very, very much focused on that. He's not focused on making the playoffs. And I thought he did a really good job of answering that in my one question when I kind of pushed him on the playoff stuff, where he said, like, look, he believes it's not a moot point. What was it was a rhetorical question that I was asking, in the idea that the question could be answered by saying the Jets just need to keep winning. If they don't, it doesn't matter. All the stuff about, how Chevy handles how they're winning or the trade deadline, none of that really matters. This team's not going anywhere unless they keep winning. As for his response to the fans and him, he'd said to me, well, you can tell me, am I taking a beating on Twitter right now? And I mean, I don't think Twitter is a public poll. I know there were some people saying stuff. I know there were people who aren't happy about him. I don't know what the average Jets fan thinks. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of people hot in the chat room here tonight. MC Stuttering Buddha, who's been with us for a long time, sounds like he's sick and tired of us talking about this, and he doesn't want us talking about this in the show anymore. I'm going to say to that, too bad. I mean, people are interested in talking about this. If you're not, you can't take it. We don't want you going anywhere, but if you need to get out of here because we're talking to stuff that other people are interested in, I don't know what else to tell you.
Renny's fired up. Hey, but
just hold on, let me finish this. Let me just close this point out. I'll tell you this. I had a journalist text me exactly what Blake Wheeler was going to say about that in the post game, and it read word for word. I mean, it was a PR response to him coming out and maybe saying something that either he thought he could get away with without fans getting upset, or he didn't care if fans got upset about it. Again, I'm not sure why fans would be so upset about it. This is the same. What you saw from Blake Wheeler in that interview is the same Blake Wheeler that I feel that we've been seeing for my 8 years on the job. I don't know if you guys feel any different. I don't think Ken wants to talk about it anymore. So Ken, you can move on, and then we got to take care of it.
No, I just want to say in one of those, I'm giving credit to Blake here, in one of his answer to your question about it being a rhetorical question about making the playoffs, I think the most important piece of his answer was him saying, well, if we keep winning even at this pace, if that is still enough, I think there was a recognition that it might not be enough in a week, and that it shouldn't necessarily vote against the overall team, right? Like when you say that message, like it's obviously a good question, but when he was recognizing in his answer, he said, well, we might keep winning, but I mean, he says he thought it was at the end of the month. Like, come on, these guys know it's at the end of the weekend. Like, this is their livelihoods. They could get traded. Obviously, Blake's not going to get traded. But my point is that I think he recognized that even if they do move those guys, because they're not going to maybe be in a great position even in a week or 5 days here, that it's not necessarily a shot against the team. So in the event that they do trade those two guys, he's kind of sending the message at that moment, to his teammates, saying that, I don't think that is an issue, but it's in an indirect way.
Yeah, I disagree slightly. What I said on our post-game hit, I think that what Blake didn't say is what he actually meant in this situation. That is a thinly veiled message to Kevin Cheveldayoff saying, don't sell.
Oh, okay.
That's how I interpreted it. Sean, don't you think so? He said, if we keep winning, how can you sell? That basically is what he's saying without saying it, is it not?
Sure. No, I think he said will be a pretty good indication that, we have a shot at the playoffs, I think was his exact shot. If we keep winning to this point up until that, whether he thought it was going to be the end of the month or, in the next couple games, I think he said if we keep winning, it'll get us into a position where at least we're in a position to fight for playoffs. But, I think it's an interesting point and could possibly be true. I just never thought that. I never thought that.
Again, the other part of this too is that it goes deeper. I mean, we know that of course the players have their opinions and have whatever it takes, but I mean, I think that Andrew Kopp is going to be on the move. Paul Stastny is the one that is interesting to me. I said, like, the New York Rangers have been watching closely. I think they would have interest in Kopp, but the more I think about it, the more I think when we start to connect the dots. I mean, Gerard Gallant loved Paul Stastny in Vegas, so to me, New York actually might be looking more at Paul Stastny as their third line center to play him with Barclay Goodrow. I mean, we saw Philip Cheadle play here about a week and a half ago, and he was excellent. But Cheadle's been a healthy scratch, so
I don't hate Wheeler.
Paul Stastny is a guy that would make sense to the Rangers. To me, it's Boston and Colorado for Andrew Kopp. We know that Colorado got ahead of the game with Josh Manson, but it's interesting. I mean, is it possible? I mean, Sean, I know you've got something that we're going to get into the deadline a little bit more here, but is it possible the Jets trade both or trade neither? Or is it possible they trade one and not the other? I mean, there are a lot of different things at play here. And, I mean, if Perfetti's not coming back anytime soon, does that change? Right. I mean,
Andrew Kopp even being available to teams in the next little while. Like, are they going it's his second concussion this season. Even if they say he'll be back in a bit, I mean,
I don't think it's a concussion, Jeff. I don't think it's a concussion.
It's not? Okay,
I don't think so.
That's good news.
I mean, we'll see, but that's. I would think that it's not a concussion.
You don't think it's a concussion?
Or they would have I think they would have said it by now. To me, that's something where you would have had the results of the baseline test.
You think they would say it by now with the trade deadline?
Well, I mean, that's totally fair.
That's a massive piece of it. You know what I mean? And if, I'm not saying they're lying to other teams, but they're probably not publicly announcing it.
No, that's fair. I don't think it's concussion, and I mean, we'll see in the next couple of days here for sure. But yeah, I mean, my interpretation, I mean, Blake knows we'll see what happens when it comes to the trade deadline, but I mean, I personally felt that that was him saying, we're showing management by going 6-2-1 that you should believe in this group, whether they do or not. I mean, I don't foresee a situation where the Jets are buyers. For me, it's always been stand pat or sell. Yeah. And again, I just wrote on Sunday that they should sell. So my mind hasn't been changed by the last 2 days. But I wouldn't, like I've said from the beginning, I'm not selling for draft picks. If you're the Jets, you have to sell for players that can help you. And then you hope that calling up David Gustafsson minimizes the damage of losing a guy like Andrew Kopp in terms of his defensive play. But one other thing I want to say, guys, and I know that the Colorado Avalanche are an absolute juggernaut, but they have questions in goal. Those are the facts. And Colorado, I understand most teams have not, just gone on this crazy run. Unlike Vegas,
Renny, we were talking about how Eric Comrie should be playing more. That's been the storyline for the last month here. Is that Eric Comrie?
No, totally fair. Totally fair.
Jets got goalie problems too.
All I'm saying is that if I'm Colorado, I don't see like a walk your way to the Stanley Cup final path for them. I'm not saying the Jets can beat them, but what I would say right now, the Jets could give them a better run than maybe we are anticipating. But I think that is something we can dig into during the last quarter of the year, because let's get real. 6-2-1 is a nice block for the Jets, but we've seen them take a deep breath and exhale and then not follow that up. So, they need to go 6-2-1 3 more times essentially this year if they want to get into the playoffs. So,
I think that's the takeaway. This is a hot streak. The Jets are playing extremely well. They're getting well enough to get wins and putting together. Still haven't put those 3 in a row together situations. Yeah. But they're putting in wins here. But they're going to have to do this again and again and again. As impressive as this has been, this is essentially the clip they need to be at. They need to be winning 3 out of every 4 games, which turns into 6 out of every 7. You know what I mean? It becomes, this is the clip they need to be winning at. So they got to keep going to make the playoffs like this.
Okay.
Hang on, Sean. Let's get the read in here.
I'm trying to get to him. I'm waiting for you two to shut up about this already. So first off, let's just start. It's been called for. So let's launch into this and turn this into Sean's headband version of the Kenny and Renny show. Telling me to get the read in when I'm waiting for you two to stop.
Let's go
back and forth.
Wake up, man! Wake up! Let's go! Let's go!
My heart pumping for my
you two are throwing dinner rolls at each other from over top of the buffet for the last 10 minutes.
Food fight!
Here we are.
I thought you were going to put your bandana on way earlier when you were snapping.
I was waiting. I was waiting for some time. Hey, I wanted to get into this. We've talked about the Johnston Group and how they've signed on with us. This is absolutely phenomenal for us. We really appreciate these guys. The Johnston Group is a Winnipeg-owned and operated company that provides employee benefit solutions to companies from 1 employee to 10,000 or more. Over 30,000 Canadian businesses trust Johnston Group with their employee benefit needs through various products, including the Chambers Plan, Maximum Benefit, and CINUP. Johnston Group is a platinum member of Canada's Best Managed Companies and named one of Manitoba's top employers. Whether you are a sole proprietor, part of a large organization, or an association with thousands of employees, Johnston Group has an employee benefits solution for you. And if everyone missed it, in the last show we've restructured here. I'm the new CEO of the Kenny and Renny podcast. Kenny is now my employee now, but he's got great benefits to the Johnston Group, and that's why it's worth it for him. Guys, I wanted to touch on something here that I thought was absolutely interesting. You guys hear Daryl Sutter's comment about the Colorado Avalanche?
Yeah, that's coaching 101 for me.
There we go. I absolutely
coaching
love
101,
that
Sean.
one. So allow everyone to jump into this.
I think he wants to be on bad takes exposed down the road. So when they fall, you know what I mean. He's jinxing them. He's jinxing them.
So exactly. So we know out of Sutter, he said that whatever team has to play Colorado in the first round, that's going to be a waste of 8 days, suggesting whoever it is going to get rolled steep by the Colorado Avalanche. Now, clearly, to me,
he said it was to be like a non-fun 7 or 8
to
days.
jinx, or at the very least, apply a little bit of pressure to the Colorado Avalanche in the first round. I think if you're the Winnipeg Jets, one thing we can say, and I mean, you can rule anything out based on the way that the teams around the Jets have fallen apart. It's not just the Jets playing well; it's the falling apart aspect of this. 5 straight losses for Anaheim, 3 straight for Dallas, 5 straight for the Vegas Golden Knights. I mean, who knows? Maybe Nashville could entirely fall apart down the stretch here, and the Jets could get into that second spot. But it looks like if the Jets are going to get into the playoffs, it will be against the Colorado Avalanche in that first round. Kenny touched on it a little bit, Jeff. What do you think the Jets' chances would be against the Colorado Avalanche team if that's the way it lined up?
Pumped. 5 games most. Like it's not. I mean, unless we. Here's the thing: if they make the playoffs, maybe I'll have a different opinion because they're going to have to be rolling here down the stretch. But if you're asking me at this point in time, I'm not going to be pointing to any weaknesses on Colorado. I'm going to be looking at a team that's crushed them, 7-1 the first time? Or was it 6-1? It was
7.
7.
And then 7-4.
Let the Jets score the first goal and then put up 7, and then let the Jets score the first 3 and then put up 6 straight. I mean, again, I just, but here's, like I said, the reality is that the Jets do get into the playoffs. Yes, they have to play. If there's a silver lining that I can offer, it's what I've already kind of said. It's if they get to the playoffs, yes, they get the unfortunate task of playing the Colorado Avalanche, but they might just be one of the hottest teams entering the playoffs. And maybe you can, I have no doubt in my mind, the story will be written somewhere by somebody that they have a chance here against the Colorado Avalanche in round 1. So let's the Jets have committed to that the last, 4 or 5 games here. They just got to do it the next 22 or whatever's left. And then we'll debate whether they have a chance against what has easily been the strongest, deepest team in the NHL.
I mean, I don't want to get away from the Jets on this because I know the chat room isn't happy when we do that. But I wonder how much of this is just the Calgary Flames looking across the division into the Central and thinking that's probably the team we're going to have to go through. But I wonder how much of this is animosity that exists from that, I believe it was 2019 first round loss that the Calgary Flames had against the Colorado Avalanche when the Calgary Flames were the first seed in the West and the Colorado Avalanche walked in and beat them in, what was it, guys, 5 games? I mean, I've talked to some people in Calgary, and I believe, and maybe this is why, and we could get to this a little bit later. I know that the Jets didn't think this, or maybe we won't, but I'd asked about, the potential for the Jets laying a 7-3 beatdown tonight against a team that they have to play again next week and probably have to pass to get into the playoffs. If you can kind of set up any kind of psychological damage, I truly do believe that the up and down nature that we've seen from the Calgary Flames over the last couple of years happened because I do think that the Colorado Avalanche broke the Calgary Flames a couple of years. Psychologically, mentally, I think that team has kind of been lost in the woods ever since, and it's kind of found themselves in what their potential was now again under Daryl Sutter. But I wonder how much of what Daryl Sutter doing to this team had to do with getting them to forget that happened, and if this isn't maybe a tiny little part of that, of him knowing that the Colorado Avalanche are a bit of a boogeyman, so maybe let's start playing mind games with them from across the league before the playoffs get going here, plant a couple seeds to kind of help his team along the way.
Yeah, for me, it's just a deflection because everyone's talking about Calgary. So Daryl's like, no, don't look over here. Look over there. Look over at the Avalanche. They're the team to catch. And Sean, since Markstrom's
you don't need to point out the Avs in this situation. As good as Calgary has been, the Avalanche have clearly been dominant. They're the number 1 team in the league. I don't think you need to point to a team. That team doesn't need to be pointed to. I think everyone addresses Calgary as having the second best chances. I think it's more than that.
Yeah, I mean, not for me. I mean, also, too, with Mike Smith played fine in that series. He was probably the only reason some of the games were close. But Jacob Markstrom is an elite goaltender, so I don't think Calgary would fear them. But the biggest question around Calgary is the same question from 2019. Can Johnny Gaudreau perform in the playoffs. He has not lit it up the same way. This guy is top 5 in scoring, top 10, just like he was that other year when he had 100 points. But he did nothing in that series. So if Johnny Gaudreau can't perform in the series, that's when the Flames get themselves in trouble. Elias Lindholm has been awesome this year. I know everyone's talking about Gaudreau as potentially Hart Trophy, but Lindholm is the guy that stirs the drink for them. So, and Tkachuk's going to have to be going. So, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to know the context. Wasn't Daryl asked directly about the Avalanche, or did he just deflect out of nowhere here?
You know what? To be honest, I don't know the context. My guess is he was asked directly. Yes, that would be my guess.
And I mean, if you look at they've had some pretty exciting games against each other this season.
Oh yeah.
You know, I think the last one might have been a 3-0 win for Colorado, so maybe less dramatic, but it was a 4-3 victory in overtime for Calgary the time before. So I think there's just maybe some respect of an opponent, maybe some gamesmanship. Maybe players don't like the coaches giving another team credit, and they want, you know, maybe there's a couple things. But I think at the end of the day, it's a harmless comment that I think is just praising what he knows is a really good team, while also understanding that his club's also a pretty good team this year too.
Kenny, I'm going to take a different format to this.
You still there?
Uh-oh.
Sorry, you broke up there.
Looks
man.
like someone's messing with the internet. Are you still there? Yeah, seems like we're having internet.
I can hear you, but now
I can see and hear you.
I missed you. I didn't hear what you asked though.
I want you to give me your 3 stars of the game and why.
Oh boy. I mean, I honestly think that Logan Stanley was very impactful in this game. I would say Kyle Connor would have been one of the stars for sure. And who's the 3rd star in this game? I would say Adam Lowry's the star in this game. He had 11 hits. He had an important. I mean, the goal is late, but I actually liked the job that Lowry did with new line mates in this game. I would say those were my 3. I mean, you can choose whatever order you want for them. Pierre-Luc Dubois drawing minors again. I thought he was pretty good. It's interesting. Ehlers seemed to be struggling a little bit in the game. Yes, he got a nice goal. It just, the puck wasn't really bouncing for him. In a night, I thought he was excellent on Sunday against the St. Louis Blues, and I thought his effort was high today. But all that chemistry, Sean, that you and I had talked about on Sunday, about how dominant they were, today they still put up some points, but I didn't find them to be in sync today. So, yeah. And that's also the sign of a great line, when you can produce like that, even when you're not free-flowing the way that they were the night before. So those guys were good. I mean, Wheeler scores a nice goal. I mean, Scheifele scores a bar down special. We've talked about this a lot. If I'm the Jets coaching staff, I'm still a little bit concerned because of how Scheifele is shying away from contact at almost every turn and not getting to the net, putting his shoulder down. But hey, he's putting up points, and that, I thought his defensive effort has been better at times. But to me, it'll be interesting to see how the stretch run goes here.
Same question for you, Jeff. I want you to give me your 3 stars of the game and why.
Well, I think Kenny's selections are bang on. I would put this. I mean, you could put Blake Wheeler in there. I mean, Blake did set the tone with that goal. Big goal, obviously, during in a period that they were struggling to get the puck towards the net. I think it was obviously a very pretty goal. I mean, when was the last time we saw Blake Wheeler score one like that? I mean, we've seen some nice ones, but that one was a highlight one. And so, Mark Scheifele, you're right. I think there's more to be desired there, but he had an okay game. But I thought, Logan Stanley certainly is in that mix. I mean, he didn't do the touchdowns thing, right? Like he didn't do that again, did he? I don't recall. Okay, so that makes it better. I would maybe strip him down from first to second if he did that. But that again. But no, I mean, what a beautiful goal he scores. He gets in a scrap. I think that was a pivotal moment in the game. I think he recognized, where he can provide value on this team. I think he saw that his club needed a spark, and that was going to be it against a team that also was, kind of controlling plays at the play at times. So, and Kyle Connor, I mean, yeah, finish like that goal is exactly the way Dave Lowry described it. It's a smart hockey player with a shooter's mentality. I mean, we all played with those guys that just do like wacky things. They just know They play angles. They know how to stun people, and like, you look at Logan Stanley's goal, very pretty goal. He kind of just picks a wide open corner. Brossoit's down. He's ready to pick. Kyle Connor recognized that if he whipped, turned and shot real quick, he could, he was going to beat him there, and it just absolutely fooled the goaltender. So, he's certainly in the group. And then Adam Lowry. I mean, that guy's finishing. And we kind of talked about it before, or you alluded to it, Kenny, I think, was that when you were introducing me to come on. But Adam Lowry, I mean, everyone was picking Adam Lowry for the first half of the season. There's no doubt. I mean, he was playing with random, wingers. Kopp had elevated his role with the team, so he no longer had him. He didn't have the guys that he usually plays with. I'm not making excuses for him, because here's the thing. If you listen to Adam Lowry's interviews throughout the entire first half of the season, you want to talk about accountability? He's the first person to say he was cold. He was, he even when we talk about his success now, he often references his slow start or wanting to contribute. So yeah, he's easily a third star. But the hits too, 11.
So for me, third star of the game was Josh Morrissey. I cannot believe how many quiet plays this guy kills by anticipating when the opposition team is going to reverse the puck down the boards, and his ability to leave his this man bails away. And tell me if I'm breaking up here right now, because it seems like you guys are.
You are, yeah.
You're good.
Okay, I'm back. I don't know what's going on with the internet all of a sudden, but his ability to snuff out plays, I think it's quiet. I think it's subtle. I think it's massively cerebral. I think tonight there were a number of times that Vegas looked like they were starting to whip things up, and he would just shut them down very quietly, very methodically, gets that goal, which I think is big. So he was good on both ends of the ice, moving the puck up ice. Just absolutely really good. I think he was a quiet start tonight, but I think he had a bigger impact on the game than most people saw. Pierre-Luc Dubois, I'll say this, the way that he checks guys in his own zone, you saw it a couple times in that third period, again, when I thought it was most important to be defensive, because the Jets were starting to slide a little bit and allowed goals and could have got a little bit dangerous there. There were 2 times that he essentially got on his man who tried to go from down low and circle right across that blue line the way that Nick Ehlers loves to do. And Pierre-Luc Dubois just essentially walked the guy right out of the zone. He's like, no, sorry, the blue line's there. I'm not going to give you that space. I can get to that space faster than you. I'm stronger than you. Sorry, you're just leaving. And you would see an entire team full of Vegas Golden Knights players set up ready to do something, and then never mind, it's out of the zone. Let's start again. That is so unbelievably frustrating when you're trying to come back into a game. I thought Dubois was majorly frustrating. And I will say this, the play that he makes where he gets the puck to the net and it eventually ends up going to Kyle Connor for that really, really nice goal. It's just simple, fine hockey, pushing the puck down or uphill towards the net. He does it once, he does it twice, it gets over to Kyle Connor. He makes himself available in the front of the net so that Laurent Brossoit thinks that the puck's just going right back to him all over again. He's the decoy that allows the brilliance of Kyle Connor to fake to the decoy and make it happen. So to me, second star of the game. And I got to say, Big Stan, I was talking with North End Rick quite a bit today. I know that he's a big fan of Big Stan. One of the things that I've said is I think that there's a couple of reasons I think that Big Stan gets kind of put upon by fans. One is I think a lot of fans who are big on Dylan Sandberg and Ville Heinola see him as standing in the way. So he gets a target on his back right off the bat because fans are thinking that he's standing in the way of something better that may be better right now. I understand that. I also think that Big Stan, you can't be that big and not use your size. He's got to find a way to do that. The other part about him, we all know about that shot of his, and we saw, I do think that he was the major turning point in that last game against the Blues, where he throws that big hit on Jordan Kyrou, knocks the wind out of him, knocks him out of the play, takes the puck in, takes that shot on net. That's where all the chaos starts. So he starts the chaos with the hit, continues it with the shot. He's got to get more offensively involved. And I thought it was interesting because North End Rick had said on the internet, he already had the fight, he already had the assist. North End Rick called it way early. He was going to score and get the Gordie Howe hat trick. What I loved most is he came close against Laurent Brossoit earlier when he had that shot, hit him up in the mask and the puck dropped. I thought he got it there. a younger player, or maybe Logan Stanley from last year, would have thought that was my shot. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to retreat for the rest of the game. He was making sure he put his stamp on that game. If we see more of what we've seen from him the last couple of games, that physical style, using that big body, like someone said in the chat room, the idea of Keegan Colasar saying, man, that's a big guy to the linesman after that was broken up. When you've got the other team, and Keegan Colasar, I used to go to the gym with him. Keegan Colasar is a massive, huge, strong human being. So for him to talk about Big Stan, if you can get the big guys on the other team talking,
he's got some reach on him. Yeah.
But if you can get the big tough guys on the other team talking about you like that, you are in their heads. If you can get up into the play and start creating offense, there's a ton of value in you. Logan Stanley, we've talked so much about the blueprint for the Jets to have to play. And I think that, we've talked about the team game. For me, that's the Logan Stanley blueprint. What we saw from him tonight, being engaged, trying to be a bully, trying to throw his body around, trying to get up in the play and impact the play offensively. That's the blueprint that we need to see from Logan Stanley. He's going to be an impactful player if he continues doing that.
Yeah, and move your feet, right? That when I asked Dave Lowry about him post-game, that's what he said. When Logan Stanley is moving his feet, everything works for him. That's when he's moving the puck efficiently. If he can get involved physically, it helps him as well. But it's all starts with his feet. But today it started with his hands and his fists.
Yeah. Hey, I should say this because we touched on this, and I promised to. I think you're wrong, Ken. I don't think there's any movement happening. To me, tonight's victory entirely solidifies the idea. And I think the internet just cut out again. Did it not?
No, you're good. Keep going.
Okay. To me,
take it as a sign.
Kevin, watch that game. Am I breaking up again?
No, you're good. Keep going. Just take it as a sign. Make sure you say something smart. I think it's
Kevin Cheveldayoff watched this game and has made up his mind. I don't care if the Jets lose their next two games before the. He is going to give this team a chance to work itself out of this and make the playoffs this season. I don't see Kopp moving. I don't see Stastny moving. And here's the other thing. The note that came out from Mark Chipman earlier this week to season ticket holders about some of the concessions that they're doing. It was, I saw it as a love letter to fans. And one of the things I saw in there was how he talked about his feeling of what they delivered to fans was playoff hockey the last couple of years. And in that letter, he talked about the fact that they're in competing for the playoffs right now. So we know the numbers. Someone asked about the percentages of the Jets making the playoffs. I think winning tonight moves their percentage of making the playoffs up to 12%. Again, you have to keep in mind the Dallas Stars have 3 games in hand. So even if they win 2 of those, the Jets are 5 points out of the playoffs. That can be difficult to make up. But the fact of the matter is when you hear Kevin Cheveldayoff saying that he believes in this group, as he has numerous times, as I think he has through people who he's talked to in the media, he did that with LeBrun. I believe he's done it with Dreger recently. There has not been any other message from Kevin Cheveldayoff other than he believes in this team. And I think what the team has shown him recently has shown him enough that he can continue believing in this team. And I think Mark Chipman's letter to the fans, the answer is in plain sight, sitting right there. He believes that this team down the stretch is going to compete for the playoffs. There's no selling this year. That's my take on it. I don't see it happening. Jeff, where do you think they're going to fall?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think you said it perfectly. I think that was, of course, Kevin Cheveldayoff thought this was going to be a winning roster. He's got pennies before he hits the salary cap. You know what I mean? Like, he thought this was going to be the team, and I still think he believes it's the team. I don't think he is willing to look at this. I don't know what they do, how they justify it, and I'm not saying there isn't justifications. They know they have more information at their disposal with what's going on in the room, what's going on in all these situations, all the other things we don't hear about or whatever, plus all the things we do know. And maybe they just kind of find excuses that this is a weird year. COVID, protocols, Canada, all these guys are pissed off because they're in Canada. Guys are not happy. They're not mentally as strong as they would be in a regular world. And I think that this group believes that they'll keep this, the group that they have, for the foreseeable future, obviously, not shake things up, but particularly not do anything at the deadline. I think they're going to hold on to Kopp and Stastny and try to let this group go try to get scrape claw in so that they have a good feeling going into the off season, whether they get in or not, that their GM believed them. I feel like that's where they're headed. I know you've been advocating, and I wouldn't be surprised if they sold. It would be a smart move to sell, especially if the offers come. But I tend to, if you had to ask me right now, I don't think they do.
It's interesting, and so I'm gonna do the complete heel turn. If that's what they're going to do, then shouldn't they be buying? If you're already committing to standing pat, if you think you have a chance to win, then don't you almost have to consider buying?
What's their market? Well, okay.
No,
fine.
I'm just curious.
Okay, sure. If the right, I mean, they can add veteran pieces for very cheap or stuff like that. But they're first of all, they're not going to be in the market for anybody who wants to come play for them. Like in the previous years, it was a foregone conclusion that the Winnipeg Jets were going to be in the playoffs. And heck, you got to play with two young studs. Like every guy that showed up got to play with. They're probably the best two wingers they've ever been a part of if they're a centerman. We've seen that happen over and over again during a time where they were actually going to make the playoffs. They're not even They're not even in a playoff position. No one is going to no one's going to move their family or change locations to come to Winnipeg for a team that may just have a miserable end to the season. No chance.
No, totally fair.
I'm an option.
I'm just wondering because I again, like I said before, I don't think it's prudent for the Jets to be moving a first-round pick, but I don't know. I still think there is a way to both buy and sell, and by that I mean acquiring players that have term and that can not only just help them this year, but help widen the window. So that's why, to me, I still think that Andrew Kopp and Paul Stastny are in play. But you're right, Jeff. It depends on the offers. They would have to get a player like Louis DeBrusk. And someone in the chat room, just for clarification.
Jake DeBrusk.
Sorry, Jake DeBrusk is an RFA with ARB rights. He's not a UFA. So that would be why they would like to get a guy like that into their lineup. For Stastny, I don't know what you're getting off the Rangers roster if that's where he goes, but I'm fascinated to see how. I do think the outcome of these next two games will impact what Kevin Cheveldayoff does on Monday. I think they wait till the last possible second and then sort of assess and see what happens. But Jeff and Sean, I understand where you're both coming from. I think it is certainly possible that Kevin Cheveldayoff still stands pat. But I mean, I'm just not sure if, like I said, if you're already going to stand pat, then don't you almost owe it? If the whole point is showing belief in the group, don't you have to try to find a way to augment? Because we know that the secondary scoring, even though it's been better, hasn't been enough. So, again, we know it's difficult and there'd have to be money moved around and all those things. But, I don't know. I think that, to me, that's the interesting part here. What they actually do and if they would consider adding a few pieces. I mean, they're already draft pick deficient here, so it would be a challenge.
I'll say this. I think that they feel like they've figured out their first line. I think they feel like they've figured out their second line. I think with Andrew Kopp back in and whoever you put, especially if it's a player like Perfetti, they think they've figured out their third line, and that Kopp alongside a guy like Perfetti would add maybe an offensive touch that they don't typically expect from the third line, especially if Adam Lowry keeps playing the way that he's playing. And then I think they would look at the fourth line as solely an energy line. I don't know where else they add. I don't think that they feel that there's someone they need to subtract and add in on defense. I don't think the Jets, I think back to the beginning of the season, the Jets feel like they had the caramel secret with the players they put on this team, that they just don't have a place to go there. And I will say this, I think that someone touched on this about, and we've talked about, the idea of people in the chat room talking about the Jets need to move on from this core. Easier said than done. I mean, it's not going to be easy to do that. I think that this is the core that you have for another 2 years. And I honestly do think that Kevin Cheveldayoff and probably Mark Chipman as well see more value in showing this core that they believe in it than there is to adding assets down the road that aren't going to pay off until 2 or 3 years from now. That's where I think that's going. And one last thing I wanted to talk about, because people are, there was someone who said this here. PLD, I said will be 100% signed long-term here. Girlfriend, parents, first, period. But think about
check the receipts, man. We've talked about this for 2 years now.
Well, and like I said, I'll go back to when Montreal was in town. I talked to the local media about what they thought about that, and they said, why would he not sign here? And at the time, with the Jets being
how long
being
was it
problematic,
him out of the city?
When they were talking about things being, I mean, when it was problematic with the team, I had thought for a second, is a guy really going to want to sign up long term for a team that, you know, hasn't shown that it's capable of getting to the playoffs in a season like this, where he was here and got run out of the playoffs the way they did by the Canadiens last year. But boy, oh boy, you take a look at that guy and he sees a look at the fairly long-term contracts of Nick Ehlers and Kyle Connor. Why would he not want to play along those guys for the next 6, 5, 7 years of his career? He sees a future here alongside those guys, and I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. I think you were first on this, Ken. I think you're bang on. The way things are going for Pierre-Luc Dubois, I don't think there's a reason for him not to stick around here. Any last words for everybody?
Future captain Pierre-Luc Dubois.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, and I would say the same thing about him just quickly. I don't think he's necessarily would say this or that he's necessarily thinking it. I think he looks at this team having a shift in the next couple of years. So if you're signing an 8-year deal, I think you're part of that. You're a big part of that new era of leadership, and I would not be surprised to see the C slapped on him as well.
Well, and the one thing I would say too beyond that is I think a lot of the success that we thought the Jets would need to have would be predicated on Scheifele and Wheeler being a very massive part of that. I think what we're seeing from that line with Pierre-Luc Dubois and Kyle Connor, Nick Ehlers, and even the idea that you could put Nick Ehlers up and down the lineup with a kid like Cole Perfetti, who I'm sure those guys are seeing that. I mean, if I'm Pierre-Luc Dubois, I'm saying to myself, we can have success even if those guys aren't here, because we can be a number one line in the NHL for a number of years to come. And to know that just think about this. Think about all the time. I mean, think of a guy like Patrick Laine, who probably feels like he's never really had a legit guy on his line to feed him the way that he probably would like to be fed. If you are Pierre-Luc Dubois right now and you've got Kyle Connor and you're saying, I get to give the puck to that guy and get the puck back from that guy. That kind of stuff doesn't always happen. There's a lot of really good hockey players who go their entire career without playing with a guy on their wing or at their center who can complement them like that. So that
what if they trade Scheifele for Patrick Laine, the trade deadline?
Yeah. Keep dreaming, Jeff. Okay, on that absolutely dud of a take, we're going to end the show here at this moment. Thank you so much, chat room, for bringing it. We appreciate you guys being here once again. Another thank you to the Johnston Group, our second show with them as our sponsor. Really appreciate them coming on board. Thank you so much, everybody. Day off for the Jets tomorrow.
Merch.
Oh yeah, last thing, merch before we go. Yeah, see, in cases like that, you can jump and step all over my toes.
Okay, thank you.
But not when you don't give me 10 minutes to butt in, and I'm like, God, we got contractual obligations here, Ken. Hey, if you like the stuff that you see on Kenny and Renny, and if you want to see a Ken or a K&R headband, just keep showing our people at Sportsnet that you like the stuff that we got there. Go to www.shopsportsnet.store for your Kenny and Renny shirts. You'll see Jeff's wearing one right now. Wake up cups, wake up mugs, wake up water bottles. We got it all there. Go check it out. We really appreciate everyone here. I'm going to get out of here before the leaf blower blows my toupee off here. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you Friday after the game.